On behalf of Asia Society Hong Kong, I'm really delighted to see so many of you here tonight for what promised to be a very, very interesting topic, straight out of the headlines. I'm sure you've all been following this topic, waste. Those of us who live in Hong Kong, we know there are a lot of stuff we can do better, and this topic is one of them. And that's why I'm really delighted that when last year, when I asked Professor Christine Loh to be our scholar, one of our first scholar in residence here for Asia Society Hong Kong Center, she immediately agreed. And one of the things we have, we'll be focusing on with Christine's help is this topic of ESG, environmental, waste, all of these topics that is really something that is we all should be doing. But I think sometimes government and other, it seems to me the private sector is further ahead in some of these areas. And so in some way, the idea for this series and with Christine's help is to really focus on things that we can do better and things that we can learn from others and things that Hong Kong sometimes are doing well in that we can share. And I think many of these programs will be recorded and will be on Asia Society Hong Kong's YouTube channel. And I know the students, because of exams, cannot come to tonight's program. So the programs like this will be uploaded. And so those of you who are here tonight, those of, please share the content and let people know more about what we're doing here at Asia Society Hong Kong and programs like this. So we're really grateful tonight that we have Donald Lim, General Manager of Outby Integrated Waste Solutions, Laurent Pelletier, CEO of Viola Hong Kong and Macau, and Professor Jonathan Wong, academician of the European Academy of Science and Arts, to be on the panel, and especially grateful for Professor Christine Loh, Chief Development Strategist at the Institute for the Environment at HKUST. And we really look, and again, thank you, and Christine will talk about other programs that we have coming up, and I look forward to welcoming you back at other Asia Society Hong Kong programs. It's going to be a very busy summer. We already have some wonderful program planned. Usually we have a lull during the summer, but this summer is very different. June, July, August, we have speakers coming from literally all over the world knocking on our door and wanting to share their topics or their findings. And so we invite you to check out our website, and if those of you are getting EDMs, and if you're not a member, I encourage you to be a member. And we sometimes do have really exclusive members programming, so please support us. And so with that, I'm going to invite Christine to get the program started. Thank you so much.
Alice, thank you very much, and thank you all for coming. Timing is everything. I never thought that today would be the day that we find out that government is going to slow down on waste management. What I just want to do today, the original plan, right, was to kind of dovetail today, and we have another program on waste on the 24th of June. We thought we would dovetail these two programs to kind of look at various aspects of waste as a lead up to government decision about MSW charging. But anyway, they've made the decision for now. I want to go ahead and explain to you why I've invited Viola, Elba, and the indomitable Professor Wong to come and talk to us today. If we just look at waste, it's always good to understand what we're talking about. If any of you would like these slides, I'd be happy to send them to you afterwards. The point I really want to make is waste management is really difficult because there are so many different types of waste. We're going to be talking about 3 types today. Now, there are many types, and when we are thinking about recycling and how to treat them, all these different types of waste actually need their own system. So the point about tonight is just for us to realize what Hong Kong has already done, and that these things have been done quite well in Hong Kong. So you can see here, right, all these different types of waste. And you can see what is our recovery rate. Now, this is all very well. We're going to talk about one type of waste that we seldom talk about, which is what Laurent's going to share with us. How many of you have been to Tea Park? Okay, right, about maybe 20% of you. And if you haven't been to Tea Park, you ought to go to Tea Park because it's a fantastic piece of infrastructure. Anyway, Laurent will tell you why. It's something that Hong Kong should be proud of, and it's the kind of waste that a lot of people are still not yet treating. But whilst the amount is small, it is very smelly and yucky. So it's very good to have a system that he's going to tell us what we're going to do. The other thing is we have a very successful scheme with electronic waste, electrical waste, right, which we call the WE Park, which Elba is going to tell us about. So again, if we go back and look, and then maybe we go forward here, you see the gray bit. Now, the amount is small, but even though we very often talk about paper, recycling, we talk a lot about plastic bottles, we're now increasingly talking about food waste and how to deal with it. So these are the big, big tonnage. But we actually have well over 1,000 tons of the sludge waste, which is not anywhere here, but it's important to know that we are dealing with it. And then little, in quantity terms, like the electrical waste, well, that is highly toxic if you are not dealing with it. So we are going to talk about this today, and it's another great park. And how many of you have visited WE Park? Okay, fewer. More people have been to Tea Park than to WE Park. It's another great visit, okay, guys? So make sure you think about visiting it. Now, these are the other types of waste, not part of the usual waste pie charts that government produces. But you can see here, we have Laurent's waste here, right? So this is just to show you the full magnitude of the different types of waste in Hong Kong. And we will talk about 3 types today, and Jonathan's going to talk about organic waste and food waste in particular, so that we can see where 2 types of waste have been very well dealt with in Hong Kong. And food waste, it is coming. It is something that Hong Kong has to deal with. So as I said, I just want to share with you the difficulty of dealing with waste management in any city and some of the areas where Hong Kong have already done quite well. So if I can now hand over to Laurent, he will be the first speaker, followed by Donald of Elba, and then followed by Professor Wong.
Good evening. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Asia Society, for the invitation. It's the first time I'm coming to this theater. A few weeks ago, I was just opposite in the exhibition, but I didn't expect such a cool place here. So very happy to be with you tonight. And as explained by Christine, I'm sure there will be a lot of questions later on the big elephant in the room. But it's important also to highlight things which are going well in Hong Kong, and they are regarding waste management. So Veolia, for those who don't know us, we are a large company, a large multinational, actually the largest environmental services in the world, focusing on water, waste, and energy. And we have been present in Hong Kong for the past 30 years with 2 main activities, waste management, which represent around 2/3 of what we do here, and energy as well. We are less known for that, but we have also an activity in district cooling and building energy performance. But tonight I will just focus on waste, and I've selected 3 examples in our portfolio. Actually, we are one of the main contractors for EPD, and EPD, maybe they don't know, but they are one of the biggest clients of Veolia in the world. So these 3 focus, the first one obviously is Tea Park. It's not only Hong Kong, which is very proud to have such a facility. Veolia, we are also very proud to have been involved in the design, the construction, and now operate such a state-of-the-art and iconic facility. So it doesn't look like, but it is an incinerator. You have a chimney in the high part, and on both sides you have some boilers, turbine incinerators that treat all the sludge which is generated in Hong Kong. So for those who are not too familiar with this topic, actually you have on this map, the yellow dot indicates the location of the wastewater treatment plant existing today in Hong Kong. And when you treat wastewater, you separate into a clean water, and all the pollution is concentrated into what we call the sludge. The sludge, it looks like what's in it's in the hopper on the right picture. So it's coming to T Park mainly by barge to minimize road transportation, to minimize disturbance. So it's coming by container and by barge, and from there with a truck we bring it to the site and we push it into the incinerator. With steam, which is produced by the incineration, we can run turbine and we can generate electricity. And so the function of the T-Park, it's not only to incinerate sludge, to reduce it at least by 90%, but it's also to produce green electricity. That's what we call it a waste to energy. And again, it's quite a unique facility in the world. There are not many countries who have such an advanced treatment for the sludge. Before it was put into operation in 2015, the sludge in Hong Kong used to be landfilled. So you can imagine the odor impact and so on. Maybe the reason there are more visitors in T-Park than we Park is because we have a pool. They don't have one, so something to think about. But very high focus has been put by the government at that time to make sure that this facility will be open to the public, will welcome visitors, and will train, will educate this young population. So there is an education center. You can see one of the picture on the top side. There is a sauna, a cafe, and so on. And there is outside also gardens where we focus on biodiversity and so on. So again, a very unique facility. I was told that in some touristic Chinese guide, sometimes it's in the top 20 of things to do in Hong Kong. Another facility we are managing, I won't go into much detail. I think, Professor, you will give us maybe more explanation later on, but this is O-Park, which is on the way to the airport. We are currently operating it, and this is the first organic waste treatment facility existing in Hong Kong, with a capacity of 200 tons per day. And the second one has just been commissioned, which has even a higher capacity of 300 tons per day. So here the process is a little bit different. It's not incineration. We receive the food waste. We sort it in a way. We try to exclude all the inerts, plastic, bones, and so on. And then we bring the waste into these green tanks that you see on the picture. And using an anaerobic digestion process, we create a biogas. It's a biological process. Bacteria come and eat the pollution, and then they release the biogas, which is collected and run engines to produce electricity. So here again, you can look at it as a waste to energy facility. And all the solid residue is brought to the left side of the picture. And here we have a composting plant which produce compost that can be reused in Hong Kong, especially for landscaping. And the third topic I wanted to touch with you is the landfills. Alors, before going into the landfill, I'm sure you are quite familiar with this figure here on the screen. When we look at the carbon emissions of Hong Kong, what we call the scope 1, the direct emission, it's quite a unique breakdown as well that we don't see in many countries. The reason is in Hong Kong, we don't have industries, we don't have agriculture, so it's quite different from what we see normally. Very big part is related to electricity generation. 2/3 of the current emissions are related to electricity production. So it's mainly in the hands of CLP and HK Electric. And I think they have a clear roadmap to decarbonize their power generation, switching from coal to gas first, and then in the long term, nuclear. Transportation as well, I would say we can see improvement, and it will continue. Electric cars, obviously, but maybe in the future we will see hydrogen trucks as well running in Hong Kong. And I do believe this percentage will massively decrease in the future. So the next topic is waste management. 7% of the emission are related to waste management. And it's actually mainly coming from the landfills. So there are 3 landfills in Hong Kong. They are all in the hands of the same operator, Veolia. So we have a huge responsibility on these items. One is called Sentex in TKO, Nantes in the north, facing Shenzhen, and Went in the west, just opposite T Park. Our responsibility as a landfill operator is to minimize the impact, the environmental impact. And of course, our duty is first of all to avoid liquid contamination. So we collect the leachate, the pollution which is generated by the landfill, and we treat it. But the other important source of pollution is gas, and it's methane. The waste will degrade naturally, and if we don't capture it, methane will be released into the atmosphere. The impact of methane is 28 times more than CO2. So our big responsibility, again, is to drill some wells, as you can see on the picture, and try to maximize the gas we can collect from the waste which has been landfilled. And our job is to clean this biogas, transform it into electricity, town gas eventually, and we clean and we sell it to town gas company. And very soon, I hope I can announce that in a few weeks now, but we will be able to produce as well hydrogen. So it will be a pilot in the first stage, 350 kilos every day, coming from landfill gas that could supply, for example, buses in Hong Kong. You might have read, but Citybus is quite keen on using this kind of solution. And just to finish, to show you how it is important for us, you have here the total emissions of the 3 landfills of Hong Kong in kilotons. So in 4 years, we have reduced methane release, CO2 emission by 35%. Our target at the end of this year is to be slightly above 1.5 million tons of CO2, and we will continue in this trend to go even lower. Voilà, in a few words, positive things about waste management in Hong Kong, and I will come back later for Q&A. Thank you.
All right. Before I start, so it's free ice cream for everyone who comes to We Park and mention Asia Society, right? got to catch up to T Park here. Sorry, can't get a hold of. Okay, so Hong Kong wants to tackle its e-waste problem, right? So more than 10 years ago, they did an expression of interest and invited a bunch of people from all over the world to come and bid for We Park. And more than 10 years ago, in 2015, it was awarded to Alba Integrated Waste Solutions, right? So we were tasked with to design, build, and operate an integrated WEEE facility for Hong Kong. So it's called the We Park. So WEEE means waste electrical and electronic equipment. So around the world, it's basically an appliance that passes electricity through it. But in Hong Kong, legally speaking, WEEE is called a regulated electrical equipment, or REE, and it covers 8 types of appliances: refrigerator, air conditioner, washing machine, television, computer, printers, monitors, and scanners. Happy to report that starting from July 1st, it will include also large refrigerator, large washing machine, dryers, and dehumidifiers. Now, why should e-waste be treated properly? The first and foremost is to detoxify, right? So every e-waste contains hazardous materials, which you need to carefully remove it for the environment and carefully remove it also for the staff that is removing it. And after that, you need to dispose of it correctly and properly. So most likely go to a Veolia facility and pay them some money for the services, right? And then lastly, you can recover the materials from the e-waste, the valuable materials, right? So if you do 1 and 2 correctly, you can harvest 3. Now, so what does it mean? How do we capture all this e-waste that is in Hong Kong so that we can treat it properly in Wee Park? So the legislation states, right, that when a citizen goes and buys a new appliance, we must offer them a statutory free removal service. That means the electrical shop or the retailer will offer you a free collection for your old appliance, right? And we promise to do it within transaction plus 3 days. But for those of you who did not buy an old appliance, it still covers you. We call it the non-statutory free collection. The only difference is that the promise is to do it within 7 days instead of 3 days. But during non-peak season, we try to do everything in 3 days anyway. So apart from the free collection, we operate 5 regional collection centers. So some retailers, they collect the old appliances by themselves, or recycling shops, and then they drop it off at one of our collection centers, right? Some citizens likes to walk in and deliver the appliances. And our own trucks, through the daily collection, also goes back to one of these 5 locations to do the drop-offs. We do a guided tour. Guided tour, please come, right? And we do refurbishment. That means our technicians look for appliances that can be repaired. They repair it, and then they donate it via NGOs and other government organizations, right? We use advanced treatment technology to achieve recycling rates of over 80%. Now, yeah, talk more about that a bit later. So this is Wee Park, right? It is a park in every sense of the word. There's a lot of green everywhere you go. We have a solar panel rooftop, and yeah, please come and visit us. Wee Park is situated in 3 hectares of land. It has a processing hall that is just a little bit shy of 3,500 meters square. It has enough storage space to handle 1 week of production volume, right? So we can stop for 1 week and still accumulate. The design capacity for Wee Park is 30,000 tons per annum. We can, however, stretch it to 56,000 tons per annum if required. 87%. After 7 years of operating Wee Park, we are very proud of this number. So if you go around the world, if you do refrigerator recycling, washing machine recycling, and printer recycling, if you can achieve 87%, it's high by any standards. So this is something that all the visitors that have come to Wee Park from overseas acknowledge this, and Hong Kong can really be proud of this. Lastly, I'll leave you with some fun facts that we have gathered over the last 7 years. We've treated just over 4.5 million WEEE. We've recovered more than 109,000 of recyclable materials. We've saved over 400,000 tons of carbon emissions. And the mathematician tells me that it's equivalent to 17.4 million trees absorbing the CO2. Thank you very much, and please come to Wee Park.
Okay, come to the last one. I won't describe the setup because the boss over there. So I just give you an overview of the food waste management in Hong Kong. And this is one of the major reasons for stopping our waste charging scheme. What's going on in Hong Kong? Christine already gave you the idea. We produce around 11,000 tons per year, of which 1/3, around 3,300 tons, is food waste. So quite a big amount. And then why we care about it? Because it's almost 6% of the global greenhouse gas emission coming from there. And if we count this as a country, it's ranked number 3 in the world after China and USA. And then, what are we doing in Hong Kong? Very simple, straightforward. We go for sources reduction by waste-wise scheme. How much we reduce? 80 tons per day. Peanut. Not really a lot. That is most we can achieve. And then we collect it and then go to recycling. So what we are doing? So we start in 2018, quite some time before. And then after so many years, we cover the whole territory with a scheme for commercial and industrial sector for food waste collection. And then we collect from those premises with large quantity of food waste, including market, hospitals, shopping malls, hotel, food factory, and so on. So how much we collect per day? 260. It's not much. So many years, we can only 260 tons only per day. So that's the reason why people campaign about, if I really do recycling at home and recycle at food waste, could we really, the government handle it? So, and then when you look at the food waste collection, suddenly the government doing a lot of work in 2024. You know why? Because of the waste charging scheme. So we have the collection at the refuse collection point, the RCP. So we got around 76 RCPs, and then we'll go up to 100 in July 2024 because of the 1st of August to implement, planning to implement the waste charging scheme. So, and also we have the mobile collection point. We have around 76 food waste collection point, and then the latest, yesterday, the government released, we will go up to 100. So that means all this happening in suddenly in the last 6 or 8 months. Okay, before what we can achieve is only 260 tons. And then in the domestic sector, we're setting up in the public rental housing estate. So this covering about 80% of all the estate in Hong Kong with 176 PRH. And then we will go up to 213. How many bins? These are the smart bin, careful, really good. We learned from South Korea. So you can use a card and then you open it and then put it in really clean. It's really good. But only introduced lately in the last 1 or 2 years. So it's been happened in the world, but we only introduced in the last 1 or 2 years. So the government now said, I think the latest news now, yesterday, it will go up double that amount. What this means is that from 700 to 1,400 bins all over Hong Kong. Is it enough? Now that's another question mark. And the government never answer anything. When people ask about it, is it enough? Is there any calculation? No one knows, and no one explains. Now that is the conflict between the government and the public. You never tell your story, then how can we satisfy? This is one thing to review again by the government. And then we set up the food waste recycling spot. That means this is the mobile one near those 3 new buildings, single block building, but only 12 districts with this type of so-called food waste recycling spot. This is only recently, also recently. And then we have the public market start in April 2024, the first one in North Hub Road Market. So only start recently. Now, all this can be done easily. The government need to invest into it. And we do think that, now, this should be the one we target first, because that's easy. These are really difficult. Why? We need to do all the different sectors all at once. We don't need. We need to collect, most of it is coming from the housing estate. These are the small amount. We can leave it first, because why? About our capacity. So now come to the treatment capacity. So we adopt a really good technology, anaerobic digestion technology being used for treating our biological waste. That's the best in the world, because this is carbon negative. So we don't emit any carbon dioxide after the treatment. So very simple. The waste coming in, they go to anaerobic digestion. Lauren already tell you about that, but I give you the background. Okay, so we go for anaerobic digestion, and then we have the biogas for electricity generation. And then after that, we got the digestate containing the liquid and the solid fraction. The liquid they will treat it and then discharge it or reutilize it. And the solid, we can go for composting. And after that, we can almost use the liquid, the solid fraction, and also we have the gas. Nothing go to the landfill side. So the government is adopting the correct technology. But why it doesn't work? So we have the first one, OPAT 1. Lauren already told you about that, 200 tons per day. We can have surplus electricity generation, 40 million kilowatt hour per year. That can reduce around 42,000 tons of greenhouse gas per year. So that just show you the composting setup, and that can be used for the farmer. In fact, the farmer loved it because the NPK value is really high, and they want to use it. But up to now, the compost doesn't meet the local standard. So they need to do more work on it. And then that's the second one, the OPAT 1, built at Saling. They start just commission in, I think it's a few weeks, 1 or 2 weeks ago, they commissioned already. So 300 tons per day, 2.4 million kilowatt hour per year, and they can reduce around 67 tons of greenhouse gas, and almost around 7,200 households can use it. So the two add together, we go up to around 100,000 households can use the electricity. And they are not producing composting. They are going to use granulated digestate. That means they dry it and then as fertilizer. And then we also find that the new trend in the world is that instead of building a new one, a new anaerobic digester, they can use co-digestion with sludge. Because in the wastewater treatment side, always they have a surplus capacity for anaerobic digestion. So instead of building a new one, we get the food waste into the wastewater treatment plant to go for anaerobic digestion. That saves a lot of money. So the first one, they commenced the operation in 2019, around 50 tons per day of food waste. And then this one already commissioned already, 2023, and then also 50 tons, so 100 tons without building any anaerobic digester. What they need is a pre-treatment facility. So the government is now constructing a 500-ton pre-treatment facility. Will be completed by 2035. So what does it mean is that we got another extra 500 tons per day. So that add together almost 11,000. 1,100. So how much waste we have? 3,300 tons per day, 1/3 of it already. So the government planning, now this is only by planning to build another co-digestion pre-treatment facility of 500 tons in the Boston metropolis. So, I mean, they not yet identify the site, they plan to do it. But after 2035, now remember why I stress on the time, because this is important, how it match the waste charging scheme. When you collect such a lot of food waste, do you have the capacity? And so when you look at this is a summary of everything now. So we got OPAT 1, we got the OPAT 2, and then the co-digestion plant. So up to 2024, we can have a total capacity of 600 tons. So if the government implement the waste charging really on 1st of August, that is not enough. Because once you implement, you can go up to, I don't think you can go up to 50%. Maybe you go up to 20% of the waste. Marginal. If we collect 20% of our food waste, marginal enough. So that's why don't always say that, do you have the capacity or not? The government think about it already. But this is a marginal value. Sometimes may not meet the good recycling of food waste. So what we are going to do, we need to build more. So by 2035, we got 1,100 tons per day. So that's 1/3. So then how you view this figure? Now, give you an example. Over the world, no matter how good you are doing your recycling of food waste, almost around 50 to 60%, no more than that. So that what we need in Hong Kong is around 1,700 tons per day only, the maximum capacity. So when we start the waste charging, we don't need 1,700 tons. What we need at most around 600 to 700. That's good enough. So I mean, the capacity now is not too bad at that moment. But we need to work hard to get up to 1,000 tons. So 2035, if we implement waste charging by August, we have trouble. If we are doing really good in 3 years' time, then we collect more food waste than we can treat. So the government needs to do something about it. But anyway, now the delay of the scheme, that means give time for the government to think about it. So for treatment capacity, I would say that the amount we have by 2025 is not too bad, but we can do a little bit better. That should be good enough for all the food waste we collect in Hong Kong. But how about the collection capacity? That is a big question mark, because we only got 260 tons per day at current situation. Maybe a slightly higher, not more than 300 tons. But we got 3,300 tons. So the government needs to do more. If they really want to implement MSW charging, we need more collection facility. That should not be difficult, because you can guide the machine from China and then come to Hong Kong, implement in the housing estate. So then I think at least for the charging scheme, that will make the resident more satisfied. Because I separate the waste and you collect it, and then the amount of waste we need to throw away is not much. Then they feel happy. There's economic incentive. Otherwise, I don't support you, because if I separate the food waste and you can't collect it, I need to put it back to the charging bag. That means I need to pay for it. So I think that is the things we need to think about. Okay, that's the end of my presentation.
Well, I'm sure you heard something new tonight that you didn't know before. And I think there are going to be questions from you, right? People are interested to ask questions. Yes? Yes? So I think maybe to give people a chance to ask you questions, just maybe one comment from each of you. So what I heard, Laurent, is that Veolia, this is actually one of your biggest markets in the world, and you are, you're in a way, because you're managing so many of our facilities, presumably you have good ideas about actually how we can go forward to align things even better. So perhaps you can just share a little bit with us what you would do going forward.
Okay. It's true, in Hong Kong we are a contractor. In other countries, eventually we invest, we own the assets. Here it's a different scheme. But you're right, we have been there for quite some time, so we have some ideas. There is something very interesting in what you presented at the end, is the capacity to collect and to sort. I'm not too worried about the capacity to treat in the future. And I don't think the 3,000 tons per day of food waste will all go in food waste facilities. Something we have not mentioned tonight, but in the meantime, the government is actively working on incineration. There is iPark 1, which is under construction, which should be commissioned hopefully by 25 or 26. And there is eventually a second one, which is going to be released later this year in a tender. iPark 1 is, we are talking about 3,000 tons per day. iPark 2, 6,000 tons per day. So it's already 9,000. If I listen carefully your presentation, you were mentioning 11,000 tons per day or for municipal solid waste, including the food waste, plastic, and so on. So I think the government is pushing different options at the same time, and eventually one day part of the food waste will be incinerated. But I think to come back to your question, what as an observer I would say, and someone who has been living in Hong Kong for quite some time, what we miss today in the chain, it's really sorting facilities. We cannot ask the population to do all the effort. It should be well balanced between what we can ask, and for that we need to have more bins, smart bins and so on installed in the residence. But after that, it's not enough to supply a proper recycling industry. So we need to have what we call usually MRF, material recovering facility. that can sort the different waste which are generated at the residence level in order to supply properly different kind of recycling industries like you are doing, for example, and like we do. Just to give an example, plastic recycling, if you receive a mix of organic waste, plastic and so on, it doesn't work. The output will have no value and it won't work. So I think sorting is definitely a key. And I wouldn't push too far later the recycling in Hong Kong. I think we have to look at it also globally at the GBA level. Does it make sense to build a state-of-the-art facility for plastic in Hong Kong? I'm not convinced. If at the end your buyer, the off-taker, is located in the Greater Bay Area. So we should focus on sorting, having clean waste streams available in Hong Kong. And I am convinced that one day, if you have a clean feedstock of PET, a clean feedstock of paper, a clean feedstock of metallic cans and so on, that could be going to the GBA, where there are already facilities existing, and they would be more than happy to get access to these feedstocks.
Thank you. Donald, what you've in case you've missed this, right? Actually, the scheme, the legal scheme of how to deal with waste is quite complicated, right? So if any of you have actually gone to buy an electrical or a computer in recent years, you probably don't realize the whole stream of what you have explained. But basically, when you go and buy the thing, you are already paying for the fee at the point of sale, right? And then actually what Donald, you explained to us is, oh, there's somebody who actually comes and take your old thing away, and you know, if you're buying a refrigerator, and then they deliver the new one. So this whole scheme is quite complicated, but it was worked out, and it's worked out quite well, right? So this kind of scheme that Hong Kong has kind of thought through, can you make some comment about it in comparison to perhaps other places?
So, yeah, actually just a little bit more detail first, right? So yeah, the scheme that Christine is talking about. So when you import containers and containers of appliances, you have to pay the recycling levy there and then, right? So when you sell the item, then it's built into the price that you buy, so the citizen will pay a certain levy on that. And from the levy the government collect, they operate WePark, right? So this scheme, although it sounds like very elaborate and door-to-door collection, it's actually a very well thought out process by the Hong Kong government. I've spent 25 years in WEEE, and I've visited a lot of places, such as from Japan all the way to the jungle factories, right? It's actually, you have to tailor-made it to that city, what they need. And Hong Kong is a place where they want efficient, they don't have room, they need everything fast, fast, fast. So free door-to-door collection, right? So it might seem like you're paying a little bit more, but that's actually what the city needs, right? So I would say that it's very well thought out process. And if anybody was wondering why only started with 8 types, when WEEE has so many types, this is exactly the reason. If the government wanted to start with every single thing, maybe they need 5 WeParks and a lot of operators running around in order to do it. So yeah, that's my conclusion. And I want to say one thing more is that for the WePark, we need to think about how to maximize the capacity. We still have a lot of capacity, and our capture rate is just a little bit over 50%. So there's still a lot of e-waste out there that is leaking to the, say, called informal sector in Hong Kong. Right? But the legislation, compared to any country in Southeast Asia, at least those that Alba operate out of, that it is a very good and very mature legislation.
So what I find interesting is that Hong Kong is totally capable of thinking through something quite complex, and then when they roll it out, people actually align with it, you know, relatively quickly. And then the stakeholders are obviously the sellers and the people in the business. And whilst in the early days there was a lot of and ah, basically, you know, the scheme works really well. Then we're now talking about food waste, right? And Jonathan, you're basically saying, well, actually, you're both saying Hong Kong's problem is collection. It's not really the technology. And the lucky thing about Hong Kong is we can afford to also pay for good infrastructure. So, Jonathan, I mean, you've told us a lot. What do you think is the way forward from today?
It's pity that the waste charging scheme cannot start as the day we want. But I do think that it's a good time to rethink about the whole strategy in Hong Kong. And Lawrence was correct. We're building facility for treatment. We don't build any facility for separation. Yeah, I think that is really strange. In other countries, they got the separation at source. After that, even you got the waste, you got separation before you go to the incinerator. So the way forward is simple: building more incinerators. Is it? That's the only way you can go if we don't want to go to the landfill side. But I do think that as a responsible city, we should not go straight to incinerator. Otherwise, it's simple. We don't need to charging scheme. We don't need to do a lot of separation at home. Just take all the waste, go to the incinerator. But we need to do separation as a responsibility of ourselves. So the way forward, first thing is the producer responsibility scheme need to execute more to other sector rather than currently only a few items. Getting more so that you collect the money. And then the money, just like the weed, you got the money, you go for paying the recycler here. Some of them are recycler. For them to do the recycling industry and the initial treatment in Hong Kong. And I agree with Lawrence. Greater Bay Area is really important behind us. We can't do a lot of industry in Hong Kong. If we do a good separation, we collect all the recyclable, initially treat it into a proper way that can export out to Greater Bay Area. So then we can do all the different type of things in China. We don't need to do it in Hong Kong because our land is too expensive, our labor cost too much. So that is a way that we really work together with other cities in the Greater Bay Area. So if we can do it, finally really is still the legislation for waste charging and also one more legislation for waste separation, compulsory waste separation. All over the world, the two run side by side. So if we can do that, I think that is really important.
Can I echo?
Yes.
Yeah, just one point very important on incineration, because I do believe the government now is really going into this direction. Incinerator, it's fine. It's a well-known technology. The key point here to integrate, if you really have a long-term vision, is the carbon emissions, because these big machines, they will release CO2 in the future. So there are two ways to deal with that. If you don't want in 2050 the main source of carbon emission to be the incinerator, when all the others have improved, you should, consider it now, especially when the tenders are released now. So first way, which is maybe the most expensive and the most complex today, is carbon capture. It's to capture from the flue gas that you release the carbon and do something out of it. I don't believe in carbon injection in Hong Kong, so that means you have to add a process after that on your CO2, and now you can transform it into fuel aviation, for example, and so on. But expensive, limited land in Hong Kong, I don't believe that could be implemented very soon. So the other way is to deal upstream. Can I make sure that I'm not going to send for incineration the waste which is responsible mainly for this carbon emission? And guess what it is? Plastic. So it's very important, back to the sorting, to divert plastic from the incinerators. And today this is the missing piece we have in Hong Kong. I insist on how we sort to feed after the different assets, the different recycling with the right material.
Great. Happy to have your comments and your questions, please. Gentleman in front, and then in the middle and at the back. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Christine. I had two questions. One is I want to know whether it is efficient or carbon negative if we burn food waste. That was mentioned. The other thing is I forgot the other. Just this question first.
Jonathan, I think this is yours.
Definitely answer to you is that incineration of food waste, you will emit carbon dioxide. But I'm not talking about that first. Food waste is a resources. It's all our nutrient there. In China now, they will utilize most of the organic waste. They try to recover it for agriculture. Because food is important for our country. We have so many people. So the fertilizer, inorganic fertilizer resource is coming down quickly. So food waste must be separated out. And also from the carbon emission point of view, definitely you should separate it, go for anaerobic digestion, is a carbon negative technology. Incineration, still emitting carbon dioxide. So we should separate first, and also as Lawrence said, I totally agree that the plastic should not go for incineration. You should go for, you can convert it into oil, petroleum. In Europe, they are doing that. So why we can't do it in Hong Kong? So, and also, for the landfill in Hong Kong, we should dig it up to collect all the plastic, to collect all the petroleum from it, and release the land. Land is so expensive in Hong Kong.
Right, there was a question in the middle.
Thank you.
Yes,
Hi.
please.
My name's Connor. I'm with the South China Morning Post. I actually had a question for Christine, if you don't mind. I know with the waste charging scheme, you previously said, if I'm correct, that you know, when the problems arose during the trial period, that you know, people should be looking for solutions rather than scrap it outright. So I'm just wondering, you know, are you disappointed in how things have turned out with this now that it's been mothballed? What lessons you think could be learned from this exercise? And then I guess for you as well as everyone else, you know, how much does this mothballing really affect Hong Kong's waste management moving forward? Thank you.
Well, I'd like to think it hasn't been mothballed. So I guess the issue I'm looking at is the use of language. Right? So what is the government really saying? Are they saying we're shelving the whole thing? Or are they saying we're not going to go ahead, we're going to come back, we're going to do various things? And I think Jonathan has laid out one set of quite interesting things, which is food waste, right? You know, collection points and so on. And they said they would come back in a year. And I guess what happens between now and then? So I think they want to definitely tell us that they're not stopping, right? That they're going to continue to do certain things. Now, what clearly makes sense to me is because the infrastructure is there, right? They're building new infrastructure. So if you don't collect, that means all that infrastructure that we're investing billions in won't have anything to eat, right? You know, they need to be fed every day by different types of waste. So I cannot actually see that government can do nothing, or they're actually going to do nothing, because that doesn't make sense to me in terms of the investments that they have already made and are still making, right? So I think that's point number one. Number two is collection is clearly the problem for all kinds of recyclables. So they need to come back and really tell us how they're going to just deal with that in light of the infrastructure that is already there. So if you look at just food waste, right, we're collecting 260 tons. When the second O Park is coming, you have another 300 tons there, right? So we can now eat 500 tons a day, but we've only got 260 tons, right? So until they collect more, that extra tons will be doing nothing. So again, with the with the sludge waste co-digestion, right? Well, that's a lot of capacity, and they're doing more still, right? So the secret really is you've got to go and do the separation and then think about the delivery, the supply chain, right, of how to do that. So I would imagine that they need to come back and at least tell us what they're doing with the infrastructure that is already there. Because it's clearly not acceptable to say, we're just going to let them sit there, right? The second thing I'd like to think is, and this is the program we'd like to do on the 24th of June. we've heard a lot from the people who says, well, I think the government is not ready, or I'm not ready, right? I don't know what it is that I have to do. But actually, we also see from government's own survey, the trial statistics, that there are many institutions that are ready. Who are these people? So I think it would be a good program to actually showcase what I call the people who are MSW ready, right? Because that gives us a sense in Hong Kong that not all is hopeless. So I like to think that our next step should really be to showcase what is possible. And I'd like to hear, from yourselves as well, because I presume those of you who are here tonight, you'd like to see things moving ahead. I hope that answers your question. There was a couple of hands, I think, at the back, please.
Hi, Dirk Long from Olympus Capital. I'm just curious, two of you are for-profit companies, you have global shareholders. If you look at the model that we're developing here, is the economic model working right now? If it is working for you as companies, are you in any sense restricted from the kinds of returns that you can make? Because you look at utilities, the power sector, everything, there's regulatory frameworks for returns. And on the other side, if it's not working, what needs to change in order to make it work for private investment?
Laurent, would you like to go first? Is it profitable?
I have project profitable and I have others not really. So all in all, I try to manage the plus and minus. If we look at OPARC 1, and to be very transparent, it's challenging because we are receiving food waste with a quality which is not easy to treat. So we need to spend efforts on sorting the inerts and so on. I do believe this is the right technology, but again, we need to work upstream to improve the quality of the waste we are trying to digest. But I think to answer your question more broadly, if I look at circular economy in general, in terms of financial model, there are two questions I need to answer. If I go for an investment committee with my headquarters in Paris, how I can guarantee my feedstock upstream, which is going to feed my facility. And here we are back on the quality, on the volumes, and so on. And today, I think we need to work, the government needs to work on how to secure the right quality, the right volume going to feed the existing assets. There is no one on this stage who is representing New Life Plastic. But I know they are struggling to run their recycling plastic plant because the volume and the quality are difficult to get. The second question I need to answer is who is going to buy my product? Okay, so I need to really balance these two. And Hong Kong, again, is not an industrial place. So that's why I would not push too hard recycling facilities in Hong Kong territory if at the end my raw material are going to be used by industries on the other side of the border. Exactly what you mentioned earlier. Land is expensive, land is missing. What about labor force as well? It's going very expensive as well. So let's do what is the minimum required in Hong Kong territory, and let's transport the final tuning, the recycling, closer to the final client, the final users, who are located usually in the Greater Bay Area. For the incinerators, if I may, one comment, a big difference between Hong Kong and other countries is that the way the projects are built today, there is not too much revenue from electricity sales. And I'm not going to go into much detail because I don't want to have too many enemies today. But that means the government has to subsidize quite a lot with the gate fee. So as an operator, when you run an incinerator in Hong Kong, you get paid more on what's coming in, the gate fee, than what you really sell as a product, as an outlet. And hopefully that could change. There are some discussions, I think, to be all between the government and the power companies in Hong Kong to have maybe more incentives to take more on the grid at a higher price.
Just
for the We Park, right? So it is a profitable project, right? And there's not really, say, a restriction on what you, how much you can earn, but rather it is tied to how much WEEE you can capture from the market. So if we are not profitable, means we did not capture enough from the market. So that is the incentive for the organization to capture and to make money. So that's the project. But I wanted to share a little bit on when the South China gentleman asked the question, right? I think there are more positives than negatives out there, because we run the reverse vending machine project for the government, right? Where people deposit beverage bottles, right? And we looked at the previous phases, and it was like 700 bottles a day per machine. And we gave ourselves a challenge and said, let's double this to 1,004, right? Seems crazy, right? Because it's been 2 years, 700. But let me tell you, I think in Hong Kong, the people want to recycle more than we think, more than what the news says, right? Because without really doing any really brand new things, it's up to 1,300 bottles per day per machine. It's a staggering number compared anywhere in this world, right? So, and it's only the beginning. Now it's limited only by the capacity of the machine. Hong Kong people wants to recycle, so yeah.
Yeah, I do think that we've been educating our public for more than 15 years on recycling. So I don't think continuing education is important, but I can't think that use this term that Hong Kong people is not ready, they don't know about recycling. I don't think so. It's whether you provide the right facility to facilitate them to do recycling at the moment. Because when you go to rubbish bin, now we argue for waste charging, it's mostly what's happening in the rubbish bin. Most of the things are food waste. I heard yesterday from a people dialing into a phone-in program. He started doing waste separation. We move all the food waste. Almost 1/3 of the waste in the rubbish bin, we move away. And he only need to throw away their rubbish only once or twice a week. So that means it's possible. But because where to put your food waste after you're doing the recycling, there I think is the issue. So I would say that even though now we delay the scheme, it may not be 100% negative. Maybe it's positive for the government to think about what they should do in the next 1 year. If we are still doing the same recycling education as the past, we are testing all the so-called waste charging back, same as the past, 20 for each household. It will be the same story after 1 year. You need to rethink about why doing so many education. Our recycling rate is still 32%. Are they not doing it? Or we are not using a proper way to facilitate them. So the governments to think about not the charging back is the major item we need to discuss. Is how to put our waste into the charging back. Give the guidelines to the resident so that they know what to do. Otherwise, they don't know. You know, one of the factors I saw in the newspaper, if you got your hammer out of your charging back, you are illegal things. It's really simple. The hammer head is so hard, you easily punch through it. Then this is illegal. So that's a really poor message to the public. You understand? So I would say that now we are not doing the same education as before. We are not doing the same testing of the bag. You don't need to test the bag. All parts that can punch a hole easily. We don't need to do anything on that. It's still what you need to put into the bag is most important. How to solve those outlying material, just like the stick, the long stick. It's really simple. Ask them to give it to the corporate and then tie it and put a label. No matter how big it will be, $11, that's finished. Don't discuss about it. Now, the government is not giving the guidelines. So it's really confusing in the public. So what we need to do is to understand what's actually happening in the rubbish bin, not the bed.
You know, before I was in government and when I was in government, working with Jonathan was always the most fun because he actually knows his stuff and he's incredibly practical, right? So they should have had you in January go out and tell the people what to do. Anyway, other questions? Yes, there's a question down here.
Hi, my name's James. I'm a
Oh,
reporter
sorry.
at Hong Kong Free Press.
Yes.
So I was just wondering, for the waste management, waste charging scheme, would you say that this is a policy that needs to be perfected, logistically speaking, before it can be rolled out, or can it be implemented at premises where full compliance has already been achieved? Like for example, even the government has said that it's been achieved at its own offices and perhaps some shopping malls. Can it be rolled out practically at those places first, and perhaps public housing estates afterwards? And also another question, perhaps for the rest of the panel. We've mentioned material recovery facilities. Is there any reason why the government hasn't invested in something like that and has instead, through the waste charging scheme, transferred that work to residents instead?
So, Jonathan, I think you've already kind of given the answer in your talk, right? So maybe you can just repeat it very quickly. Well, maybe I'll answer the second question first, and you can ask your first question again. Again, Jonathan has very clearly indicated that Hong Kong is unusual in the sense that it has legislated for waste charging, but not for waste separation. And I think we need to go back into history quite a long way to kind of maybe understand what the thinking was, right? Because at one point, the decision was, let's go for other things. Let's build a lot of infrastructure, but not to mandate separation. And that's also predates my time. And I'm just wondering, right, this is just a guess. Sometimes government doesn't think the people will do what they're supposed to, right? So I think with the idea of a second incinerator, right, it's also, we don't think we can get the public to do all these things that we want them to. If I can use another example, right? So Hong Kong, in terms of getting to carbon neutrality, the plan is that we buy more clean power from China, right? So the solution is, you could say, good, because you buy cleaner electricity. That means all of us, commercial, industrial, residential, what we use will already be clean energy. What they're not asking us to do is to save energy, right? Is to use every way imaginable to save energy. Because maybe sometimes government believe we won't do it, or it's too hard to do it. And I've had this actually in other countries. In other countries, meaning talking to, when I was in government, I had occasions where I talked to other municipal authorities. And so, for example, in the US, one mayor of a major US cities basically told us, we were a group of municipal authorities from different parts of the world talking about waste. And the mayor basically said that she didn't believe Americans were really willing to separate, right? So it's got to be technology. It's got to be some big machine somewhere to do waste separation. So, and if you were in Japan, the Japanese have done it, right? They believe in waste separation, and they have acculturized their own people to do this. So what I'm saying here is governments often make assumptions about their own people. So I'm very interested in what you said, Donald, that that you think that Hong Kong people, the desire to recycle, is actually perhaps much higher than people think. So I think by matching public messaging, public education, we should have a better handle, perhaps, of what our own people are like. So Jonathan, maybe you can add something.
I feel that we already come to a step, we decide to do it. Now, just like what you said, is the administrator will think that, oh, they cannot do it, so they not even go into it. So when I give a talk in India, the minister, I can't remember from which ministry, said, oh, Indian people cannot do it. So strong. But I said, doing separation does not require a degree. You understand? I did it 2002 in China, in a county with 100-something thousand people. And then we start with the old district first, with old people. So then, very simple. In China, said, send them a letter and tell them they need to do it. Then they do it. Now, this cannot work in Hong Kong, but I just want to tell you that they really obey to the government. So I would say that in Hong Kong, we already decide to do it. That means the administrator already decide to do it, and then they pull out. That is strange. That's totally different. That means I already be in the consensus they cannot do it. Then I won't even start doing legislation. But now we have all the legislation. So that's why I think the government really need to sit down. What's happening? Why? You already have the legislation and you cannot roll it out. So my understanding to the government, I would say that they're not down to earth. They're sitting in their office to think about waste recycling, waste separation, not really going to the district to see what's happening. You know, almost 10 years, the government spent a lot of money in the district, doing a lot of so-called recycling pack testing. I was the one of the first to do it in 14 years, getting the money from the government, and then I told them that without the legislation, even then you ask them to use the bed. Why I need to use the bed? There's no regulation there. So the participation rate is only around 40-something%. Same as what we are doing now. So that's nothing new. All these results been done 14 years ago, but now we are repeating the same thing. I would say is that whether you're down to earth to understand what's happening in the rubbish bin rather than still thinking in the peripheral.
Yeah, just one comment. For me, the final purpose of the municipal solid waste charging scheme is not to put your waste in the right plastic bag, which is the one designated with the government logo, because this one will go in the landfill actually. So if you think you're doing good by putting all your waste that you generate into this designated bag, you are wrong. For me, it's just an incentive in a way that you could do differently. You could bring your waste to the right bin. Maybe you have to walk a little bit, but put your plastic where it should be, your paper, and the rest only in the designated plastic bag. And eventually, some people will reach a stage where they don't need to buy this plastic bag because they are doing exactly what is supposed to be. This is the purpose of the charging scheme. So it's not a way to generate more money, to invest and so on. It's just a way to hit a little bit the ones who don't follow the game. And today, this is something I'm not able to answer. Are there any enough bins existing for people who want to do properly the job close to them? Of course, if they have to walk 2 kilometers, it will not work. But in every residence, are there any bins enough? This I don't know. But that's for me the key if this scheme has to be applied.
I think I just add here because Jonathan, you talked about the 3 nils, right? The 3 nils in Chinese is samo, which are those the most difficult residential areas where there's just no space for putting in any bins. So you know, and the government has always known that maybe that's 20% of Hong Kong, right? But 80%, you can do really quite a lot. So we mustn't also let the 20%, the most difficult cases, stop the 80%. Any other questions? Because I'm aware that we're running out of time. Here and then over there.
Hi, thank you for this. This has been really interesting. I had a quick question for you, Donald, around the waste recycling of air conditioners. There's going to be more and more air conditioners that have to be replaced. We're a warming environment. How confident are you of the refrigerant capture of all of these air conditioners? Because I get the sense that there's an informal way by which some of these air conditioners come to you, and you're not able. Are you able to capture the refrigerant gases?
Yeah, so before in my slides, I said that we did a 400,000 in carbon emission savings. More than half of that comes from the refrigerant. So capturing the refrigerant is actually, yeah, one of the things that we do well in.
It's not a big volume. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
teaspoon
it's
per
a
air conditioner, so
it's
it's not a
100 grams
volume.
at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you do, we just reached 500,000 pieces in air conditioners last week. So you capture 100 grams at a time, and then 100 kilograms in per cylinder, and yeah, you can get it done.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Koa. I'm from Tetler. I have a question just for the panel generally. A lot of you mentioned that what's needed is more sorting facilities, and I'm curious to know whether you engage with government on those discussions, and if so, how's the engagement been, and what are some kind of challenges that you're facing in that?
Please.
So first of all, we are championing the sorting facility, right? This is absolutely a must for Hong Kong, and it's the correct one. So we did engage the government maybe about half a year ago, together with the European Chamber of Commerce. At that point in time, the government's biggest concern, and maybe that would answer the other gentleman's question, was sorting facility takes up a lot of space. The one in Germany we have 5 kilometers of conveyor belts running around. Right, but in today's world with the architects, they can go upwards, right? So that shouldn't be a obstacle, right? But the government was banking on rolling out April 1st MSW charging, right? So back then they weren't considering sorting facility, but now became August 1st, and what's happening? Yeah, we definitely will go back to government again.
No, same. It's for me the question why they are not moving faster on this. Technologies are existing today. We can sort different type of plastic using optical sensors. Now with AI and robotic arms, we are able to sort very quickly. So yeah, definitely it takes space, but I do believe if one asset should be implemented, that's the one. Yeah, that's really the missing link. So yeah, there was a question. I wish I knew why the government is not willing to go faster on that.
But I want to add a point that, yeah, we need this type of facility. Doesn't mean we depend solely on that. We need to do good source separation. For example, the government target is 55%, very good. The West, 45, may then go to the incinerator. But before going to the incinerator, they should have the separation, the MPT or whatsoever. After that, the West will go to the incinerator. That will add extra capacity for us to sort the things out before incineration, rather than we depend solely on separation equipment.
Holly,
So
I just want to
just
check
one
on time. Holly, how much time do we still have? 2 more questions. Okay.
No, just one point. Something which is working quite well now in Europe. It's a very simple sorting at source that you ask to the citizens. Only 3 bins. One for glass, because glass is a quite particular material, very heavy, and there is a well-known recycling industry behind. One for wet waste, which is mostly organic kitchen waste, and one for dry. And dry, you put all the rest. Paper, plastic, metallic cans, and so on. And all of that goes to the sorting facility. And we are able to sort it. Metallic cans, very easy, with magnet. After, with density and so on, we can separate paper to plastic. Optical sensors to separate different type of plastic and so on. So that's the good balance, I would say, between the industry and what you can ask to the citizens. Don't ask too much. Don't expect to have 10 bins where they are able to recognize a PE from a PVC, for example. Doesn't make sense. Just be focused, pragmatic, and find the right balance between the citizen and the industry behind.
Yes. Any other final question? Yes, question back there.
Thank you. My name's Dana from Plastic Free Seas. Laurent, your question was, or what you just said was exactly going to be my question, but I'm going to take it one step further. Is there a way to, I think separating out the wet from the dry is key, and I would love to see the government focusing on that, whether you can handle it all in your organic food waste facilities is another matter, but let's keep it separate. Then you can have all of your dry material to sort. Is there a way to tie in municipal solid waste charging with that sort of system? Is that the system that you just explained in Europe? Is there municipal solid waste charging? Because I think that's key as well. We still need the charge, because even if things can be recycled, we want people to reduce. We don't want them to keep, oh, it's okay, it's recyclable. So can we combine municipal solid waste charging with a wet-dry system?
That's what Jonathan is saying, right? Don't focus on the bag. It's what you put inside the bag. It is tied in already. So you pay for the bag, but you don't need to put so many things in the bag. Put it in a dry bin, put it in a wet bin, and then you end up with a stack of bags that you don't even need to use.
I mean, there were some questions when the government first launched the scheme in January. And at that time, various people asked whether with the bag, it meant government was no longer implementing waste separation. And it was unfortunate that there wasn't a very clear answer that these things are running in parallel and you should continue to separate. And indeed, the government should have more separation assistance, right, for people. So I think perhaps we can end our discussion today by kind of summarizing a number of very obvious observations that we have. Number one is Hong Kong has done some good things, right? You know, because we have so many different types of waste, we should be very clear which are the ones we've already done something and that it's working. And the second thing is we should be revisiting perhaps some of the older ideas or assumptions that may still be lurking there, right, in the public and within government, because I think the world has also moved on in what might be just better to do, right? So, and just to give you an example, when I was speaking in the past to government people in Japan, in a way their answer was they spent 3 generations getting people to separate like 10 bins. They want to continue to do it, but they're very special, right? Whereas I think for others, the wet-dry is much easier to deal with. So, you know, should we today in Hong Kong move to something simpler, because we also have new infrastructure, right, that is being built. So I think these are questions that the community together with government can explore. And then to pay attention to really the new infrastructure that are coming. Never mind about the second incinerator, right? But we have the first incinerator, and we have OPARC, we have there's co-digestion and so on that are coming, that we're clearly unable to feed unless we reorganize, right, waste separation and collection so much better. So maybe the conclusion from everybody is let's not be so depressed about what happened yesterday. That cannot be the end of the road. And we should push forward in kind of maybe clear our head, right? So I think this is what I'm hearing. Let's clear our head so that we can push forward. Would that be a reasonable summary? Right. Well, please put your hands together and thank the panel for me. And please come back on the 24th of June when we'll have more people who can share with us that Hong Kong is MSW ready. So can I hand it over back to Holly? Holly, are you still here? Yes. Just to perhaps say goodbye to everyone.
And to thanks to the panel, and thanks to Christine, our scholar in residence, for this excellent program. And please do come back on June 24th for the second part of the series. Thanks again.
Thank you.